April 1986, the last Sunday of the month. Tut and I were dressed to the T with our two-piece suit on, silk shirt, and ballet shoes, and our jewels. As we were driving around the city, mingling with the ladies, or looking for new territories to open up more drug spots. I was driving down Myrtle Avenue near the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn when NYPD patrol car put their sirens on and pulled Tut and I over. As we pulled over and the cop got out of their car and headed our way, I instructed Tut to put his hand up in the air, and I did the same. As one officer, he reached my side and the other officer reached Tut's side. I realized it was a brother from the neighborhood. He told his partner he was going to stop us and pull us over just to bust our balls. Bad mistake. I went off on this idiot and his partner. I was yelling and screaming at them as a crowd was gathering and people was driving by. Don't ever pull a stupid stunt like that again. It could cost you your life and more. One late night, while heading home from the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn, driving my two-tone black and silver Cadillac Seville. Being a drug dealer, to avoid being stopped, I should have been driving a beat-up Chevy, but I didn't. I was dead tired. I made a left, leaving the Bedford-Stuyvesant section, going down Atlantic Avenue, heading towards home, Cypress Hill houses. Man, timing. I was less than a block and a half from home when all of a sudden I was pulled over on Belmont and Euclid by two white detectives in an unmarked police car. Thinking I didn't have license, that I pull over and stop at the curb. They asked me to get out of the car. I complied. I thought that was too polite. The youngest detective starts searching the car, and all of a sudden he pulled out a package wrapped in aluminum foil from under the passenger seat. He looked at me and grinned and asked, "What's this?" To be truthful, I didn't know. The young detective opened up the aluminum foil, and all of a sudden, all you can see was pure white powder. Shit, one of my associates must have forgotten to take 9 ounces of pure heroin out of my car. Fuck, this is good for an A1 felony charge. With my prior felony conviction, I was automatically facing 25 to life. I can recall a young detective saying, "Sarge, this is pure heroin," twice. They look at the dope, they look at me. The next time they look down at the dope, I ran as fast as I could into the dark, escaping into the shelter of Cypress Hill houses. Inside my apartment, slumped on the floor against the door, I asked myself, why in the hell did I allow myself to slide back into this predicament, facing life imprisonment? I paged Amari, a friend and business associate. No cell phone then. My cell phone was registered in his name, and he was currently living in Terrytown, New York, and working at General Motors. Amari immediately reported the car stolen, while I contacted my lawyer, Murray Cutler, who walked me through the process to get my car back. I came to find out the cop never reported the drug. They claimed to have stopped the car for a routine check, and the driver fled. Worse still, I finally learned that the drug was not even mine. But even then, if you sit back and you think about it, the crooked cops, they didn't report the drug. Those guys was from the famous 7-5, the 7th precinct. Yes, the same precinct the documentary The 7-5 was based on. The crooked cop and the corruption. The unmarked car came to a screeching halt. Then, the wheels spinning in reverse. The car came to a stop with two undercover detectives jumping from the car, pulling their guns and shouting, "There's Money Green." I was wearing a dark green sharkskin slack, light green Damian knit shirt, dark green suede and leather British Walker shoes, and a green leather European craft jacket. As the two detectives approached me, I began jumping up and down in the middle of the street at Sutter and Euclid Avenue, directly across from Cypress houses and Manny Bodega, proclaiming my innocence until one of the detectives placed his .38 revolver to my head as his partner placed a cuff on me and placed me in the back seat of the unmarked car. Awaiting was Walter King Tut Johnson, already cuffed, as we both were shuffled off to the infamous 75th precinct, the same precinct the 7-5 documentary is based on. Who the hell do I think I was fooling? I was guilty as sin. Tut and myself had been on a rampage, two 17 years old, robbing everything and everyone we desire. Now, we had to pay the price for all of our misdeeds. From the 75th precinct, Tut and I was escorted to Central Booking, then the Brooklyn Criminal Court, remanded and sent to the lovely resort of Rikers Island. C-74, home of the Gladiator. C-74 was so overcrowded that they had inmates sleeping in the bullpen receiving department. We was initially moved from bullpen to bullpen and escorted to the mess hall. Keep in mind, the mess hall is jam-packed with all of the most ruthless adolescents from the 5 boroughs. As we sat to eat, majority of these young, hardened criminals, age ranging from the age of 16 to 20, was talking shit. These guys were saying if Tut and I would get transferred to their unit, they was going to relieve us of all of our belongings. Tut and I stood up, back to back, dumped our tray on the floor, and re-shouted it out that if any of you pussy ass want to cross the line, come on and let's go right here, right now. We was bum rushed by several COs and escorted to the Why Me holding cell. Tut and I worked a deal out with the robbery victim by paying back what we took, and the charges was dismissed and we were released. You'd think we would have learned our lesson. No, we didn't. Tut and I both became career criminals by throwing our life away for the love of the street. Murray Cutler. Since 1980, when I was 16 years old, catching felony charges as if it was the 8th Avenue Express chain. Charges ranging from robbery, criminal possession of weapon, and assault. My mother, Dorothy Gibbs, hired Leonard H. Kaplan, and he was my mouthpiece for both of my 5 years probation sentence in both Brooklyn and Manhattan Supreme Court, my 2 to 4 years sentence in Queens Supreme Court, and my 2.5 to 5 years sentence in Brooklyn Supreme Court, which led to my prison term with the New York State Correctional. You would think after serving 3 years and 4 months, I would be smart enough to call it quit. Oh no, not I. My appetite for crime was at an all-time high. Slowly but surely, after being turned down for several good paying jobs, I applied for a job with the street. Application accepted. Back to surviving by any means necessary. I did whatever I needed to do to make that almighty dollar. Selling drugs, buying and reselling guns. I made a pretty penny selling guns. I was infatuated with guns. 22, 38, 44 revolver, 25, 32, 380, 45, and 9mm automatic. I used to travel up and down the East Coast border buying weapons, only returning to New York City to sell all my new toys for 500 to 600% profit. Easy money. Now came murder was the case that they gave me. I still was rocking with Leonard H. Kaplan until Sister Perry, my friend mother, told me that I need to stop playing game and hire Murray Cutler. I never heard of him until then. Before turning myself in for the murder beef, I met up with OG El Shabay from Linden Plaza, aka The Land, and he also suggested that I hire a lawyer by the name of Murray Cutler. Within a short period of time, 2 individuals who didn't know one another both spoke highly of this lawyer and suggested that if I wanted to beat this case, Murray Cutler is the man. With that advice, I hired Murray and eventually cut ties with Leonard H. Kaplan, the lawyer from my adolescent days. With Murray Cutler, I was acquitted on a murder charge and released. I was arrested several other times for a couple other murders that Murray got it taken care of immediately. He also represented some of my crew from the M&M. Murray wasn't just my lawyer, he was a friend. I can recall him telling me how he used to visit some of the worst neighborhoods in the city and how he would give a guy $20 to watch his car until he returned. And when he returned, if everything was all intact, he gave him another $20. Reason being, his deductible was much higher. When I caught my federal case, Mr. Cutler refused to take my money. He told me that no amount of money or Perry Mason couldn't get you out of this one. They don't make lawyers like Murray no more. Do you know how many lawyers would have bled me dry knowing that the situation would bleed? Rest in peace to one of the best lawyers in the world, my friend, the late Murray Cutler. The year was 1988. Money was coming in nonstop. I got together with LD and Puerto Rican Jesus, both from our old neighborhood, and our crew, and we went to the Red Parrot nightclub, 617 West 57th Street, between 11th and 12th Avenue in Manhattan. We was probably 20 deep. Keep in mind, we all was checked for weapon at the security point before entering the club. No problem. When you have cops on the payroll as part of your crew, Then they would bring in several guns while being checked. All they had to do was flash their badge and pass the gun out to us once we got into the bathroom. LD and Jesus and I was dressed to a T with crazy Jews, and our crews were sharp too. As we mingling with the crowds of several hundreds of party going, enjoying the night, celebrating life. Keep in mind, at Red Parrot, you will have celebrity, actors, NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball player, singers, politicians, drug dealers, stick-up kids, pimp, murderer, the who's who of the big red polluted apple. I'm having fun. Keep in mind, I didn't get high off of drug nor alcohol. My high was money and women. And that night, it was plenty of women. The night was going well. We all was having a great time when an old friend from Brownsville approached me, Carl Singleton, aka Divine. He was with a medium height, dark-skinned brother. As Divine and I started talking about life, I keep noticing his buddy staring me down. Initially, I tried to avoid him by talking to Divine and looking away. The more I looked away, it was as if this dude was getting bolder with the stare down, until finally I snapped. I had enough. I stopped my conversation with Divine, looked directly into this guy's eyes, and asked my man, "What is your problem?" And he asked me, "What do I mean?" I told him that he keeps staring at me, and the more I look away, seeking to avoid a possible problem, the bolder he got. This dude responded that I was staring at him. I told him I do not play games, and he told me he was just like me. I told him this stare down shit is what I used to do when I was a kid. Again, he told me he was just like me. I went on to say, I do not have time for this bullshit. For the last time this brother told me he was just like me, I was so heated. I placed my hand on my concealed .45 automatic, and as I was inching closer to this guy, my crew was reaching for their gun and closing in on him because they anticipate what my next move was going to be. I went in on him and I told him that you are not like me. If you was like me, then we would be identical twins, and we are not identical twin. As I'm pulling out my .45 out of pure anger, my intellect and common sense kicked in. Here it is, we in a crowded crowd, hundreds of witnesses, and I thought about it. What the sense of me doing this shit if I can't get away with it? So I extended my hand to this brother and I told him, I am Glaze. This brother shook my hand and said, I know. I am totally baffled. As he introduced himself, Hatchet, John Bloody Hatchet. I told this dude, why in the hell you just didn't come over and introduce yourself? You was about to get yourself killed over nothing. Hatchet and I had a lot of close friends. We know some of the same people. I didn't know it at the time, but Hatchet and Jesus had a beef over a drug spot that Hatchet kindly took from Jesus with no retaliation. John Billy Hatchet, trust me, was no joke. He was terror on will. Look his story up.
A lot of people fail to realize that it was two cases. First was parole officer Brian Rooney, who was executed. That was Fat Cat parole officer. Then you had the rookie police officer, Edward Burns, that were executed. Only thing different with those two cases, you had a parole officer and you had a New York police officer. And you notice it was like two separate type of news coverage. Brian Rooney case got very, very little notice. Edward Burns case for some reason became political. You had George W. Bush walking around campaigning with that man badge in his hand. But with the Rooney case, you heard very, very little. Not saying one was more important than the other. Both of them was an act that should have never happened. And that's what started the war on drugs. When a paid civilian is doing a job that they are being paid to do, you cannot and should not take it personal. I repeat, when a paid civilian is doing a job that they are being paid to do, you cannot and should not take it personal. Lorenzo Nichols, aka Fat Cat, got busted on a humble. He was at the wrong place at the wrong time. A drug wave was going down. As a number one man, you never place yourself at the same location with drugs, weapon, and money. When the sergeant and detective entered into the back room of the deli, to the police surprise,
His shotgun was aimed at no other than Fat Cat and two others. Cat was arrested, handcuffed on drug and weapon charge, but due to his high-power house attorney, bail was only set at $70,000. Cat was immediately bailed out. Being that Cat was still on parole, he reported to his parole officer, Brian Rooney. Mr. Rooney kindly placed a cuff on him and sent him back to jail for violating the term of his parole. Cat was fuming. He was highly upset. A self-made millionaire back in the jail cell. 2 months later, Cat sent word to rough Rooney up. I am a bit confused. How in the hell are you going to send a couple guys after a New York State parole officer who is licensed to carry a firearm and professionally trained to use his weapon? The guys that were selected to perform this task knew ahead of time that they had to take him out first. Otherwise, he would definitely shoot and kill them. One of the guys placed a call to parole officer Rooney and told Rooney he had some valuable information. Rooney agreed to meet him. As Rooney pulled up and the guy entered the car, as they sat and talked, another car pulled up to the side of Rooney. Parole officer Brian Rooney looked as the tinted window rolled down as he watched the bullet leaving the barrel of that gun, entering his body, ending his life. Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols never gave anyone the order to murder his parole officer, Brian Rooney. I repeat that. Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols never gave the order to have his parole officer, Brian Rooney, murdered. His words, instruction was strictly to bust him up, to beat him up, to scare him. But sit back and think about it. When you send in soldiers, young guys, after someone who is licensed to carry a weapon, what can the end result be? For more of this story, coming soon, Straight from the Street, Volume 3 by Brian Glaze Gibbs. Crime doesn't pay. If I can change, then anyone can change. Please go to www.audible.com or www.amazon.com or iTunes and order your copy of the audiobook Straight from the Street Volume 1 and Volume 2. For a signed copy of Brian Glaze Gibbs' paperback book Beyond Lucky, email me at brianglazegibbs@gmail.com. Also, follow me on Instagram at Brian Glaze Gibbs. Crime doesn't pay.